Welcome, guys, to Still Going Strong. As always, my name is Robert. This is my wife, Kaci, and we are so thankful you guys decide to come and check out this podcast. This is the season finale. I'm actually excited that we actually got to do a season finale. I was worried there for a second. If you guys haven't seen the videos, my wife has been struggling with some health issues for the past month. And couple months, and so I'm very thankful that we get to sit around this table one last time. And before I forget, we get to into anything we're going to talk about, since this is a season finale, just like I did with the Refining Fire podcast, that just all that means is this isn't like I Am Matthew podcast. What this means is that we're going to run 10 episodes or 11 episodes, and then we will record and we'll bring this to you next summer. With that in mind, if you guys have been listening to all 11 episodes and there's something we didn't cover, let's say that there's something that you would really love to hear about, as far as to get a good marriage perspective, a good Christian marriage perspective on it, please, you can email either my wife, Kaci, at iammatthewministries.org, or myself, Robert, at iammatthewministries.org. It'll be at the card at the very end of the video. Please, we would love to hear from you. If there's something that we can do to make this better, I know that we've thought about possibly doing couples on here, and maybe
bringing on other couples,
and bringing on another couple, and then that way we can actually have that kind of dialogue between and getting two couples' perspectives. But just to start it off, we wanted to do it just the two of us. But that's something that you can look forward to. We may have couples on in season 2. If not, we may not have a season 2. If we don't get enough views, I may not make my wife drag herself out of bed or drag herself
out of bed. That's not very nice.
Yeah, well,
don't make me seem lazy.
Drag herself out from after church and come record an episode. So it's just whatever God wills the second season of Still Going Strong to look like. But again, so thankful that you've been through this season with us, and I've really enjoyed sitting here and talking to you. And now I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell us what we're going to be talking about today.
You're going to make me be the awkward one.
I'm going to make you be the awkward one.
Okay, so...
I've held this off as long as I can. It's time to go.
Yeah. So one of the things, I kind of made myself feel a little bit old here, but whenever you were talking, you talked about the season thing, it kind of made me laugh because, it used to be that whenever you would watch TV, you would watch a season, and then you'd have to wait almost a year for the next season to come out. And there's still some shows like that, but I feel like streaming has gotten us desensitized to that. So,
well, I mean,
you don't always know what seasons are. And I was just sitting here thinking that while you were talking about that.
Well, here's the deal too. But here's the thing too. I did a lot more than most seasons are now. I mean, we've done a lot more than what just seasons are, because normally now I was used to seasons being like 23, 24 episodes.
Sometimes,
and then like Disney Plus, when they started doing Star Wars stuff, it's like, oh, you get 8 episodes.
Yep, you get 8.
That's it. And I'm like, we didn't even get started. We didn't get started and it's over? Yeah, so, or like Smallville, when you used to watch Smallville, like there was plenty of hour-long episodes, and it's like 23. But now you don't get that no more. But
no.
But seasons is
sorry, just a side note.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, so it is going to be awkward. It is. It's going to be an awkward topic, but
we're going to talk about sex. There, I broke the ice. There we go. A little bit.
So, but I felt like God had laid on my heart. I mean, we've always said that, we are willing to talk about even the hard things.
Yep.
The awkward things, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I think we've talked about sex a little bit. Not to this extent, not like specifically this aspect of it, but we have a little bit. But obviously, especially whenever you've been married for more than just a few months, there are times where things come up and you're not physically able to be physically intimate with your spouse. And so basically, I kind of want to talk about that, about, there are those times. We're not talking about just because you don't want to, because that's a completely different subject. But like times whenever you're not actually able to be with your spouse in that way.
Okay.
And we both had the exact same thought, which is kind of funny. I mean, not really, but as far as the Bible goes, of what scripture we were going to kind of bounce out of. So do you want to read it or do you want me to?
I can read it. So, yeah, because whenever she said, okay, well, this is a topic that I'd like to bring up, I'm like, okay, I didn't know exactly where it was, but I was like, we've got to talk about this verse, and I'm actually going to read a little bit, because one of the things. So I think we should preface this by saying that, your wife or your husband, sex is not a means to an end.
Nope. Not at all.
It is not, because, and here's the thing, and I say this from experience because, BC me, I expected it. It was a duty. It was expected of my wife for us to have sex, because I wanted to be satisfied, and she was the one that was in charge of satisfying me. That again. So, like I said, let's read 1 Corinthians 7. I'm going to read the first, let's say 7, with first 7 verses. So it says, "Now in response to the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to use a woman for sex. But because sexual immorality is so common, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman should have sexual relationships with her own husband. A husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise a wife to her husband. A wife does not have the right over her own body, but her husband does. In the same way, a husband does not have the right over his own body, but his wife does. Do not deprive one another, except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer, then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control. I say this as a concession, not as a command. I wish that all people were as I am, but each has his own gift from God. One person has this gift, and another has that." So whenever I read this, I always look at verse 7, where Paul says, "I wish that all people were as I am." I could not. And I know that there are people out there. I know there are people that are perfectly fine. Well, at least they say they are. I don't know 100% because I don't know their personal life.
Absolutely.
I don't know their private times, but they have expressed to me that they don't need sex, that the Lord is enough for them, basically.
Yeah.
And I wish I could be like that, but I know that if anything were to happen to you, that's not me. I can't. I just wouldn't be able to. That's just not what God has called me to be. So so like I said, I always look at that one, and I'm just, I can't imagine it. But so I think we should kind of almost walk through this a little bit at a time. Is that okay? Or
Sure.
do we want to just focus on the not to deprive one another?
No, because I think there's more to it than that.
Yeah. So I think in the first part of it, he says, in response to the matters you wrote about, it's good for a man not to use a woman for sex. So I think that's what I talked about in the very beginning, is that BC me. I mean, honestly, I used you for sex. I used you to satisfy that part of my body, and not really understanding the gift of sex, the gift of intimacy.
Well, and honestly, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I can say honestly, more than likely, especially as a Christian married couple, if your wife does not have an interest in having sex with you, it's probably because she feels that way. It's probably because she feels like you have made it into a duty for her. Because the thing is sex is not just enjoyable for men. And so granted, if you've made it into something that it should not be, then yeah, your wife is going to pull away from that. Yeah. But I think that there's a lot of other things, and I don't know if we want to dive down this road because we could definitely easily get off on tangents, but there's a lot of other things that go into it, especially for a woman, that there's a lot of other emotional and mental and physical things that go into it versus for most guys, there's not.
Oh yeah, and they talk about that a lot in marriage courses, about the fact that, and the thing is that we're saying this, but that is the normal. It's the rule, but there's always exceptions.
Oh yeah.
There are times where it can be flopped. It can be that a husband can be very, very, wanting love and respect from his wife before sex, and that may be all that she wants. I mean, there is those chances where those roles could be reversed, but most generally it's that way. And I look at that and I understand it. Yeah, because we compartmentalize things. I can have an argument with you and then I can have sex afterwards, because the argument has nothing to do with the sex and sex has nothing to do with the argument. It's two totally different things. Whereas now that I've come to understand, you can't be intimate after a fight, because it's all part in this. It's all part of the same thing. And
it doesn't even have to be a fight. It can just be as simple as feeling taken for granted.
Yeah.
And there might be a night that you don't want to help me with making supper or the dishes or whatever, and I feel taken advantage of, and like you haven't kind of helped around the house or whatever and helped me, so to speak. It can be as simple as those kind of things, and all of that is wrapped up inside everything for us.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to get really personal. Shots fired. Shots fired.
I'm not trying.
No, it's okay. No, I no, it's fine. I'm totally on it. I just wanted to say it's getting a little close to home. We're opening up wounds somewhere. But no, and
hey, we said nothing was off limits.
We did say nothing was off limits, and nothing is off limits. So, but I mean, I agree with you. Well, I mean, I'm beginning to understand that now.
Yeah.
I wish I could keep that in a moment every time.
Absolutely.
But I do sometimes, like whenever I know that it's coming, I tend to be a little bit more helpful, because the last thing I want to do is drop you out of it.
That's true.
If I know that it's coming, women, if you let your husband know that it's coming, you'll be surprised about how much he doesn't drop the ball then. Just saying. I'm just saying. He says,
but then you give him the whole sex as a reward kind of situation, and
no. It's not sex as a reward. It is just to let you know this is on the agenda for the night, and us as guys, we will understand that if it's like positive reinforcement, not like rewards. It's positive reinforcement.
Same thing.
No. It's the fact that I know this is coming. And in order for me to continue to this goal, these obligations have to be met, because us as guys, and it's like the dog ringing the bell and getting the food. It's okay. I have to ring the bell to get the food. And the nights that I don't ring the bell, I don't get the food. So wait a second. The nights that I don't do the dishes and help pick up afterwards and help get the daughter to bed and all these other things, if those aren't met, this won't happen. So we're ringing the bell. We're ringing the bell.
Well, and I mean, you see all the funny videos on like YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, but it really is true. Honestly, for women, there really is nothing more attractive than a man who's willing to go do the dishes or vacuum or whatever without being asked. Honestly, just help us do the things we have to do.
These are the things that you and I could talk about that's not in front of a camera that could help me out a great deal. But anyways, again, so in verse 2, he says, "But because sexual immorality is so common," it is so common.
Yeah.
"Each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman should have sexual relations with her own husband." I hope that that's very clear. And I've talked about this on the I Am Matthew podcast, and I want to discuss that too. Is that when it says that each man should have sexual relations with his own wife? Well, number one, we should obviously all know that we should have sex with our wife and not somebody else's wife and not some other woman. It is, we have sexual relations with, because it's intimacy. It's the most intimate thing, the most revealing of the soul thing you can do. Because here's the deal. Ever since the fall of man, we have clothed ourselves and we have kept clothes on ourselves. And minus a few tribes in some remote places, for the most part, we keep the most private parts of ourselves hidden. And to have intimacy with another person, you have to reveal those things for rejection, for acceptance. and you just want to make sure that it's with the right person. And honestly, that's why I've never understood people that could just have like one night stands and things like that. Like, even BC me, whenever I did have sex outside of covenant marriage, um, I always felt like I knew the person a little bit to want to reveal myself to them in that way. I just never could understand the concept of just one and done. I just couldn't understand that. That wasn't my genetic makeup. But so when he says sexual, do you have anything?
You're good.
Okay, I just didn't know if I didn't want to continue on. And each woman should have sexual relations with her own husband. So it's the same thing. And another thing where I think he's breeding into here too, like I said, I've brought this up on the podcast before, is the idea of masturbation, which, surprise, surprise, guys do it and girls do it. I know that it happens. But I know that the Bible doesn't specifically talk about masturbation. However, so the norm, what God's covenant or what God's meant for sex is in covenant marriage between a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything outside of that gets grouped into this nice couple words called sexual immorality. And I'm sorry, but even though that masturbation isn't, now I'm not saying that, I'm 100% in this. I know that I still fail. So I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at this, because I'm not. But, but masturbation does fall into sexual immorality. And that's why he says, because sexual immorality is so common, we have to have sexual relations with our own wife. And then it says a husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise a wife to her husband. Now, I know that earlier we had said it's a duty and this and that. Okay. Here's the deal. Yes, it's a duty. Okay.
Mine specifically says sexual needs.
Oh, sexual needs?
Yes. Mine specifically says the husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs, and the wife should fulfill her husband's sexual needs. And I mean, it really is. We are physical beings, and so.
Well, and I like, and again, I guess the word is the duty word. Is like the word.
People put a negative connotation on it, but it doesn't have to have a negative connotation.
It's like, oh, I'm chained to this, and it's.
Yeah.
Where the thing is that it's just like with Jesus. Whenever you're close to Jesus and you love Jesus and you want to satisfy him, and if that means giving $20 to a homeless person, that means giving $20 to a homeless person. In the same way, if I love my wife and I know that that's what she needs, I'm going to provide that. And I know that my wife will say that to the same thing to me.
Absolutely.
Even like the times where I may not do the dishes, and mm-hmm. times where, I don't feel like it. If that's what it is, we do that. But we do that understanding that it's not an obligation. Absolutely. It's something that I want to provide. So, then we get into the hard verse 4. I'll let you talk a little bit. A wife does not have the right over her own body, but her husband does. In the same way, a husband does not have the right over his own body, but his wife does.
Well, I mean, I think that goes into the whole, I know we talked about the whole submission thing and everything like that. It goes into that because we are one flesh as a married couple. We are one flesh. And so we don't just have authority over ourselves. We are tied to one another, and so we do have authority over one another. Now, the important thing is you do not abuse that authority. God does not give you the authority in the Bible to then do whatever you want to with it. That's not what it's about.
Yes. I just thought of this example.
Okay.
Somebody working out, okay? You are exercising your authority over strengthening the muscles in your body. Mm-hmm. However, if you go to the gym and you overdo it, what you are doing is you are abusing the right to condition your body. Yeah. And you can hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
You
can overwork yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's you have to have those moments of rest. You have to have those moments where you allow the muscles to fix themselves, to repair themselves. So, because otherwise your muscles will rebel against you.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the same way in this, is that, yes, like you said, we have an obligation to each other, and we can't just cut it off. We can't just say, no, you can never. Um, we have to work. It has to work, but we can't deprive, like it says in verse.
Yeah,
1.
you can't deprive, but you also can't force.
Yes.
You can't force a situation. I mean, yes, you do have authority over the other one. You do. But that's not to be abused. Just like in any other thing, any commandment that Jesus gives us in regards to a marriage, he specifies every single time that it is not to be abused. It is a love authority.
Yep, I agree.
It is completely rooted in love.
It is, yes, it is rooted in love. Because here's the thing: if you are truly in a love committed relationship, marriage, the last thing I want to do is deprive you of anything. And I know the same. I know you feel the same way about me. That if you truly love me and you don't want to deprive me. However, we get into those times like here recently for us with you going through health issues and stuff like that, where you've been asked not to.
Well, I mean, the most obvious is, you were gone for 2.5 years when you were in prison.
Yep.
There's the physical barrier then.
Yep.
At the end of my cancer treatments.
Yes.
There was a significant amount of time of my body healing. And then now, yes, with my heart stuff, and there's still time of my body needing to heal. So, during those times, it is kind of like you're having to deprive, so to speak. But
yeah, and I agree with you. So when we get to that, so I know that in here he says, do not deprive one another except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer, then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Okay, so does that mean that's the only time that you can deprive yourself? That is no. Or you deprive the other? No. I'm sorry, but if somebody is having a health issue, and I'm sure that if that would have been the mindset of Paul, if that's what he was really trying to focus in on, he would say, no, you shouldn't be trying to, to have sex whenever they're feeling ill, whenever they're under the weather. You shouldn't be doing those things. What he was just here giving an example of not depriving one another except for a time for prayer, because this is what he was looking at. He was looking at the more logical approaches to reasons why we might deprive ourselves. But these are perfect examples. If there is a health issue, what are you to do? And here's the thing. Here's the thing. He may not be talking about, except for you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer. Prayer and spending time with the Lord is an excellent way to get through these times where maybe you can't be intimate with your spouse. One of you is in prison, the other one's out. One of you is going through a medical issue, the other's not. One may be having to work for a limited period of time in another city. Because here's the deal, especially with us being sexual beings, the enemy is going to try and push everything sexual in front of you. He's going to try and throw every single book he can in front of you to get you, because it's like when Jesus fasted for 40 days. The very first thing that the enemy tries to throw at Jesus is bread.
Yep.
It's the very first thing.
Yep.
Because that's what he was deprived of. He threw bread at him. So yes, when you are deprived for a time, pray, spend time with God, because he's going to throw that stuff at you.
Absolutely. He totally is. His goal is to destroy anything that he can. And so, in those times, those are the times when it is the most pertinent in my mind to be spending that time with God and to be prayed up and to make sure that you're good. Because, I'll be honest, I didn't have any concerns when you were in prison. Not something that I worried about anything going wrong. Not then. But he likes to throw those things in my head whenever whenever I have health problems and stuff like that, and I can't, he likes to throw those things in my head of, well, he's not just gonna not have sex forever. It's not what it's about. It's not forever, but still,
Yeah.
he likes to throw those things in my head of making me question, are we still okay? Or are you going to go somewhere else and all that kind of stuff? And so I feel like from my perspective, I have to make sure that I am in a good place with God and that I'm spending that extra time and making sure that my head's in the right place so that I can combat those things. Because if I don't, then it bleeds into other issues and it starts causing conflict between us because he's getting in my head and making me think all these things, and then it starts bleeding over into other areas.
I agree with that. And the thing is that while you were sitting there talking, I was thinking about things and the fact that, because I mean we've mentioned the fact that that I've committed adultery, and the fact of the matter is that I look back on that and just realize how stupid all of that was, because it's to go somewhere else and to find that satisfaction. All you're doing is it's a light and momentary pleasure.
Yeah.
It literally lasts seconds, and then what I don't like and don't ever want to feel again is Satan pour guilt on me and not be able to get out from underneath of it.
Yeah.
Because even whenever I would BC me, he would still pour condemnation on me. The fact of the matter is that I didn't care. I didn't have an accountability to anything.
Yeah.
I have accountability to me, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just get over this. That's how I really felt. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong, and maybe I'll get in trouble, but I just won't do it again. And then it just led into the next action, the next motivation, whatever it was. And so for I think one of the things that I really do want to express is the fact that we really, 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 when we, is to really think about the act of sex. And the fact of the matter is that when you get past that, yes, there are moments of euphoria, if that's the word to call it, those climaxes, if that's what you want to call it, when you get past those moments, and this is really where, and I've expressed this to you during times, is that I really enjoy being intimate with you because of the fact that I'm serving you in another way.
Yeah.
And yes, I do get to serve. Yes, you serve me and I enjoy it as well. But it's not about me no more. It's not about my satisfaction at the end of it. Yes, I get satisfaction out of it, but it's turned the table on you.
Yeah.
Whereas BC me, it was all about me. It was about, in the end, did I enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay. To me now, it's not about that no more. It's about, did you enjoy it? Did you find enjoyment in that? And it's funny because I said, so it does say here to come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-control is, everybody talks about the fruits of the spirit and patience being the hard one. I think self-control
is probably the hardest.
Yeah. Because if I could just have self-control, I could have self-control in my patience. So, but he says, I say this as a concession, not as a command. Again, and then he talks about wishing that all people were as like he was. But, yeah, I think once we get a good, healthy idea of what, now I see here's the problem whenever we start talking about, because I know that we talk about, unmarried or, non-believers, and then we talk about believers. And what does this look like for a believer and a non-believer together. Honestly, I'm hoping it's not something that you're obligated to do, you're forced to do. Hopefully it still comes in the good place of, even if it's like you said, a reward or something like that, until that other person does come to know the knowledge of Jesus. But again, it's just a sticky situation to get yourself in.
There's a reason you're not supposed to be unequally yoked.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
Because, it makes everything harder. One thing I did want to spend just a little bit of time kind of talking about is, I kind of hinted that it's rough going through those times whenever you can't be physically intimate. And I mean, that might not be the case for everybody, but in our circumstance, especially since we have had that problem in the past. And so it's one of those things that gets thrown at me a lot. And so I think it is important to remember that whenever you're going through those times, and more than likely, granted, for me, whenever I was going through those times, whenever I was really sick and everything like that, sex wasn't like the first thing in my mind or whatever, but it was something that was in my mind of, I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to fulfill that for him. And so I'm sure you probably did it unconsciously. I'm not trying to be mean to you, but you're not necessarily the most over the top lovey-dovey person all the time. But there were those times, especially I remember after my cancer treatments and stuff like that, there were those times where it was just a nice time of maybe you snuggling up next to me and cuddling with me in bed or on my couch or something like that. And those little things of, even though it's not the same as sex, those physical intimacies are amazing. And, it really helps to have that reminder of, we are still together in this, and everything is going to be okay in it all.
Yeah, if you get into that rut where if there is a health issue and you're not physically able to be intimate,
for me it seems like there's always a health
or for whatever thing. Here's the thing: first thing you don't want to do is you don't want to isolate each other. You obviously you need to show them that you're still a team in it, like you said. And I can't even remember the times that I've done that, but I do know that is something that we just have to keep our head up and really think about, is the fact that I don't want her to feel like that, that this is all her fault or anything like that. I want her to remember that we're still in this as a team. Now, BC me, it would have been a totally different story. And but I'm just thankful that the fact that I don't have to worry about that no more, that now that I follow Jesus, and now that I really truly understand what being intimate's about, and I truly understand what that moment is actually supposed to feel like, man, it's the greatest fulfillment. Now, I'm not saying that the devil doesn't try and trick me into thinking that the other stuff was good too.
Yeah.
Not saying that. But what I'm saying is that whenever I really stop and think about it and look at it and really start to focus, it gets all put in perspective, and yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way. So
one thing that did just kind of pop in my head that we haven't really talked about, we did kind of talk about, that it's because, you don't want to deprive each other because of sexual immorality and stuff like that. However, I do think that one thing that tends to get thrown around a lot, and not always, but most of the time, it's whenever men are unfaithful, it's because women have pulled back or whatever. And that is not an excuse.
Yeah.
Even if the woman is not, or the man, either one of them, are not performing their husband and wifely duties, and that is no excuse
Absolutely.
for someone to go looking elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
That is not okay. And if you are on the receiving end of that, and basically your spouse has basically said that it's your fault, it's not. It's theirs, and they just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They don't want to take the responsibility for the mistakes that they've made. But the fact of the matter is, there is nothing that anyone can do to force someone to be unfaithful.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Um, I think if you get into that situation, uh, and intimacy things cannot be had, and if you love Jesus, and I hate to say it like that, but if you love Jesus, the first thing you need to do is say, okay, what is there some way that I'm not allowing the intimacy to happen? Okay, if because the thing isn't go, okay, well I'll just go find it somewhere else. That is you're right. That is not the answer. BC me, I thought that was the answer, and BC me went looking for it even when it was available. When it was available at home. That was me being selfish. But look and see, okay, what am I is there something that I'm doing wrong? You can't just say, well, it's the other person.
No.
The first thing you got to do is say, okay, what am I doing wrong? And you got to make sure that what you're doing is okay. I mean, or what's going on. If you are being loving and nurturing and supportive, and you feel like you're just getting the cold shoulder and stuff like that, then maybe you need to discuss with your wife and then ask your wife, hey, what am I doing? What could I do better? I mean, I understand that having talks about sex is which I don't understand. It's our wife.
Yeah.
If that should be the one person that I should have no problem talking about sex with.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You guys get into the act and you guys actually do it. So if you guys get in the act and you actually do it, why can't you discuss it? Why can't we have a conversation? I understand you don't want to have a conversation with 4 or 5 people. Yeah, that gets a little uncomfortable because yeah, or 500,000 people or 5 people, whoever watches this. I don't know. But that shouldn't be a problem. So you should really just sit down and say, look, I want to discuss this. This may seem uncomfortable, but you know what? We have the actual physical act. Why can't we just discuss it? Because you know what? When you discuss things, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, it's like sex is this big taboo thing. And that's because yes, because it is. It really is. It's covenant marriage between man and a woman. That is the only time that sex should occur.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So because of that, the enemy wants to say, okay, well, how he made this into a really destructive thing was saying, okay, sex outside marriage or sex inside marriage and inside a covenant marriage, that's the only way to have it. Okay, well then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them think that it's taboo, that you can't talk about it. This is just an act that you perform every once in a while, all the time, whatever. So then you can't have any problem. Well, now what I'm going to do is now I'm going to force this where somebody likes it this way and somebody likes it this way, and now all of a sudden there's a disconnect, and now they don't want to have it anymore, but they're not willing. But I don't want them to be able to discuss it. So then we make it taboo that we can't even discuss it. So then we get all of these weird stuff that people like and enjoy and things like that because we can't just simply talk about it with our significant other. And then I've just seen how the enemy just turns that into mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
All because of the simple fact that a husband and a wife can't talk about an act that they do, sometimes on a regular and frequent basis. Talk about it. Just talk about it. If you have no problem committing the act, you should have no problem talking about the act.
Yeah.
And discussing and what can we communication. Communication is key, and we've talked on that so many things.
True communication is key.
Yeah, true communication.
I think that's another thing too is, and I know women do it as well, so I'm not going to say that it's all men, but I do think that sometimes men, they have a tendency to, they ask the question of what can I do differently, trying to kind of make themselves feel good. But then whenever they're told what they can do differently, it goes in one ear and out the other, and they have no interest in doing it.
But I'm not talking about perform because to me that sounds like a performance issue or a performance making myself feel. It's not about that.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is that what you just described there doesn't need to be brought up to the table at all.
No, it doesn't.
Because at the end of the day, it's not. It's about satisfying her. What can I do differently question should not come from a place of I need you to tell me how good I am.
I don't even mean that way. I mean, like, if you're having other issues, like if you're having issues communicating, or if you're having issues with especially your wife, feeling like you're not helping and stuff like that, and you're noticing that, and so you come to her of, what can I do to help? But you're not actually wanting to help. It's more just along the lines of, you want to make it seem like you want to help.
Yeah.
And that is more dangerous than not even asking.
Yep, that's true. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. But do you have any other thoughts, ideas? Do you have anything that we haven't covered, that we haven't talked about, that we haven't touched base on as far as that? I feel like we've ran the gambit on that. I'm sure that there's probably plenty more stuff that we could discuss. If you guys have any questions, I mean, again, the card's going to be at the end. Feel free to email one of us. But with that, I would like to thank you guys for checking out this season of Still Going Strong. Again, if you have some things you would like us to talk about, if there was a topic that maybe you would like us to go further in depth,
or who knows, maybe we ran out of ideas.
Or maybe we ran out of ideas. And because otherwise we're gonna just start opening the Bible and pointing and pecking and go for it. No, we're not gonna do that.
Hey, it might be fun. Some of those conversations are fun.
Yeah, but I want to be a little bit more intentional for people. But
I agree.
We are so thankful you guys decided to check out this podcast. We always want you to remember that what God has joined together, don't let anybody separate. Not culture, not pride, and not pressure. Make sure that you protect your covenant, and we hope to see you again next time. Still Going Strong. Have a great rest of your year, and we'll see you next year.